Got it.
All right. We are ready to run here, folks. Welcome in this week, NASCAR by the numbers. You got your normal host here, the ever so close to having a right prediction, me, NASCAR opinion William Richard. And then you've got the gunslinging, will throw anything at your way, but so far looks decently smart at picking John Hunter Nemechek to do something this year. Armany.
Front Row Joe Jr. He's only got 30 races. Well, no, 20 races.
Hey, Front Row Joe Jr. hasn't done too bad. I mean, big top 10 at Darlington. Well, then, of course, he wrecked in lap 1 or 2 of her first 10 laps of the second race. But he was setting some stuff on fire there. But anyways, obviously, we finally got to see some racing. Me and you enjoy talking about actually seeing racing more than all these other topics. And a bunch happened at Darlington, almost to the point where, Darlington's always a great track, but a lot of times it seems like the history of Darlington carries its reputation. This time it was like Darlington was just good. And the package is seeming to fit it well. And what did you think, before we get into any specifics, what did you just think about the races we got to see?
Well, I guess we'll start off with the 400-mile race. It was a solid race. I linked in that race more to the 20 thing. It reminded me a lot of 2017, the Charlotte playoff race. It was a really good race, really solid race. Nothing too memorable, nothing really too exciting. But it was just solid, quality racing. You couldn't really complain about it. Obviously, Kevin Harvick getting his 50th career win. We'll talk about that later. And then we saw, like the usual players so far in the first 4 races of the season we had before the Corona started, come back. Alex Bowman, Kevin Harvick, the other Hendrick cars, Jimmy Johnson, which, Jimmy, I'm going to need you to stop wrecking on the last lap, my man.
Hey, good thing you brought it up, because that was the first point I had. I know you're Mr. Jimmy Johnson, Mr. Jimmy Tracker here. And Jimmy looked fast, looked real fast, almost maybe like it was too fast for Jimmy. Obviously, takes the white flag, there's no white flag in the stage, but in theory, takes the white flag in the stage. Smooth sailing. I think he didn't even have any pressure behind him. I think he had maybe a second lead. Might even been bigger than that. I mean, he was just coasting at this point. Decides, you know what? There's something in me. I have to lap Chris Buescher right now. And so he goes after it. And then, listen, I'm going to call it out. People can disagree with me. You can disagree with me. Me and you actually have not discussed this yet. That's on Jimmy. People have tried to blame Chris Buescher, if, ands, or buts. And yes, Buescher was a little low. Maybe could have get a little more room. All Jimmy had to do was let off the gas, tap the brake. No. Jimmy said, I'm sending it. And then Jimmy also bobbles, sends a 17, and obviously they bobble back up to each other, and Jimmy spins. I'm going to tell you this much. I spent much of the mid-2000s wishing something would happen to Jimmy Johnson. Not that I hated Jimmy, but, I was a kid. I was 10 years younger. I was 15, 16 years old, and I'm thinking, I'm tired of this guy winning. He was beating Jeff Gordon every week. Something needs to happen to the 48. Dude, unfortunately, or I guess fortunately now, it's the first time I ever felt heartbroken for Jimmy Johnson, because you just feel like he's getting close. Now, as a Jimmy fan, I'm sure you're going to tell me this was Chris Buescher's fault. It's a conspiracy. Roush and Ford plotted this out. But what were your thoughts when you saw? I don't think you got to see the race last week live, but when you saw the replay of what Mr. 7-time decided to do to himself last week.
Roush is salty about how Hendrick dominated them back in the early 2000s. So they're like, okay, there's our chance to get payback. So they're like, okay, Buescher, you're going to go as slow as a turtle. And then when Jimmy goes by, you're going to be like, yay! All right. But in all seriousness, yeah, that was all on JJ. I saw what happened is I saw it on Twitter at first, and I was like, okay, you know what? Can we just go back to going on hiatus? Then I actually saw the replay, and then I was like, what the hell were you doing, Jimmy? It's probably the first time in nearly half a decade where you can actually win a race and probably dominated. And then you just decided to let this lap to 17. Matt Kenseth ain't in the car. You're not racing Kenseth for a championship, man. Relax.
It was definitely wild. And, I was talking to someone before. I was talking to someone on a podcast video show Tuesdays. And this was the first time you really, Jimmy's had some bad moments the last couple of years, but this is when you're like, this is the first time I've had a question. And don't get me wrong, I still hold my prediction. I think he is going to win this year. But this is the first time you look at it and you're like, Jimmy could go winless this year. This is the situation to where Jimmy Johnson 10 years ago never makes this mistake. Jimmy Johnson 10 years ago just doesn't do what he did. And, it's getting past the point of just bad luck. It's almost like, does he have it anymore? Is his reaction time what it used to be? And I'm not necessarily saying it's gone, but those things come into your mind, those thoughts come into your mind, because Jimmy Johnson a decade ago, he doesn't even sniff anything like that happening. And it's just crazy to see that because he's such a good race car driver. That's the serious part to it, is you really start thinking, what if we've really seen Jimmy's last win? But also think this, we thought all of 2015, there was no way Jeff Gordon was winning the race. He would run, he could run 8th to 10th all year long, but he just couldn't win. And then obviously Matt Kenseth kind of, paves the way at Martinsville and the doors open up. I don't think a similar situation would happen that way, but you never know. And, wouldn't it be crazy if Jimmy's last win would also be at Martinsville if it happened in the fall and he was still in the playoffs? Would mean he might get the battle for title number 8, but let's not get.
I did predict that back early in the season.
I bet you.
I predicted he'd make the Final Four. I never said he'd win title number 8.
We'll see. But Jimmy is a driver on the low. Another driver hits another huge milestone, and that's Kevin Harvick. I've made this kind of push the last few weeks when I really laid everything out, that Kevin Harvick's a top 15 race car driver all time. I don't really think that's debatable. You could even argue that he could be as high as 11th or 12th to just kind of pick your poison there. But Kevin Harvick gets win number 50. I believe that puts him 12th or 13th on the all-time wins list. I know he was tied with Tony Stewart. 12th. He was tied with Tony Stewart, so now he moves up. And, Kevin Harvick, I can't talk enough about Harvick. It's weird because you're not going to see me have Kevin Harvick T-shirts and die-cast. That's my dad's guy. But I just really respect Kevin Harvick. And he's kind of this generation's, maybe you could say, a Mark Martin, even though that's apparently going to be Matt Kenseth now. Something about those old Roush guys. But Kevin Harvick 50th win was a pretty big deal.
I'd link more Kevin Harvick to this generation's Bobby Allison. Gets a shit ton of wins, but just can never get past one championship. I don't want to dog on Kevin Harvick, but he's been in the Final Four every year since 2016, and he's finished third in the standings ever since 2017. So I do think Harvick will get title number 2 eventually. I'd genuinely be surprised if he retires with only one title. But 50 career wins is incredible.
Yeah, well, I think.
Oh yeah, one more thing. He's still the only driver with Alta. We talked about how Kyle Busch never finished outside the top 10 last year. Kevin Harvick, if he keeps this up, unless he wrecks, he looks like he's on track to match that record that Kyle Busch and Morgan Shepherd set.
Oh, yeah, he's rolling. And but to add to this on the Harvick note, think about this. So obviously, you can't always get into the semantics of what if there wasn't a playoffs, what if there was a playoffs, what if this, what if that, because we'll never know. But fun fact, without a playoff format that ever comes in, Kevin Harvick's a 3-time champion. And I posed someone the question, what if Harvick won 3 titles and also had 50 wins? You could be arguing that he could be top 10 all time. It's crazy what the perception of championships can do. It can elevate you. It can deteriorate you. It's one of those things that always holds back Mark Martin. Mark Martin's one of the best drivers that's ever been in NASCAR history, but he never won a championship. And a lot of people hold that against Mark Martin. And maybe that could be something where Harvick's going to always be looked upon as one of the best drivers in NASCAR history. But what if? What if he had won 3 or 4 championships in addition to those 50, which could be 60, 70 wins by the time he retires? It's always going to be something interesting to look at because of what Harvick has done in the sport in its entirety.
Say this. Thank God Harvick doesn't have 3 titles, because then Jimmy would also have 3. So,
yep, I do remember. I think I saw that too. Jimmy would only have 3, or I think it was 3 as well. So he would just have 30 wins, which is still a huge chunk of wins. But it'd be interesting to look at. And then obviously we could not talk about Darlington if we did not talk about the obvious, and that is I got a 9 car over here. I don't have anything 9 on today. There happened to be a little misjudgment between Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott in the late laps of the Wednesday night race. First, I want to talk about, I thought it was a really good show Wednesday. I was really excited watching that race on Wednesday night, and maybe that's just because I'm a NASCAR guy. I don't know how a casual person would feel just because I understand rolling on a random sporting event. It can be hard to get into it if you don't follow it. I loved it. I thought Wednesday night was amazing. I thought it was a really good – it happened to be a really good race, which helped. I mean, we had a lot of yellows in there that could really kind of give you a break, and then we had a crazy little finish there. What did you think about Wednesday night? And then give me your take on the Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott fiasco.
Yeah, Wednesday night was probably the better Darlington race out of the two. I think it shows that shorter races, like 300-mile races, they can work. And I think NASCAR is going to really try to incorporate that when we head on to when we finally figure out what the hell this 2021 schedule is going to look like. Ramped up the intensity. We saw, for the first time in Darlington, I think I've ever seen, you saw drivers take 2 tires, no tires, and they actually held on for a considerable period of time and not just drop all the way back to, dead last in like 2 laps. So that was really interesting. And I feel like that has a lot to do with the package because what we saw last year with this package, tire wear isn't really as big of a factor when it comes to this package, I guess because like the downforce or pressure, I don't know, I'm not a tire specialist. But yeah, very fantastic race, really no issues as far as I know. I mean, I think something happened with Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott. I'm not 100% sure. I think Chase Elliott gave Kyle Busch, like a little something like that. I don't know. I think did Kyle Busch give Chase Elliott a love tap or something?
So what had happened was all the fours. Chase Elliott was on fresher tires. He had the freshest tires in the field of the leader. And Busch was on older tires. Hamlin was on slightly older tires. And Denny's the leader. Chase is in second. Well, Kyle's trying to pass for second off the 4. They get past the stripe, and Kyle was trying to pull back in line before Harvick could fill the hole. And he happened to misjudge it by a good 2 feet. He really dumped Chase into the inside wall. And the rains come, and Denny Hamlin wins the race. So, it's one of those deals where Chase and everybody acknowledged it. He didn't do it on purpose. Kyle didn't look up the 9 car and say, I'm going to dump the 9 car. But a bad misjudgment by a 2-time Cup Series champion doesn't have misjudgments like that. So, they've smoothed it over supposedly, but I don't know, if Chase is running hard for a win, maybe one day you see those two get back a little bit more contact there in between the two. But it was a little wild and it was a little heated. Chase had his 1-finger salute, and Alan Gustafson really wanted to talk to Kyle Busch, who, remember, Gustafson used to be Kyle Busch's crew.
I felt bad for that one pit crew guy for Kyle Busch, who was just surrounded by Chase Elliott's crew. You have Alex Gustafson just stare Kyle dead on in the car, just like, you done fucked up, buddy.
Kyle's better than that. Kyle is better than that. And it's just, we'll see if anything happens. Chase isn't the kind of guy that necessarily goes and just dumps somebody. Even with the Denny Hamlin situation, it was really kind of a passive-aggressive revenge. I mean, it worked. Denny Hamlin's season was ruined at Phoenix because of slight contact, but Chase isn't the kind of guy that you're not going to just see him go and just turn right on the 18 car, especially after they taught him well. And then the last really fun note of Darlington is, and I guess you could say fun, bittersweet, was, everybody knows the situation with Chase Briscoe, him and his, I believe it's his wife or fiance. I believe, yeah, they're married. They announced, they were supposed to be having a baby. They were going to go get an update. Well, they, unfortunate news, they had lost their baby. And, Chase, he has to get up and still race that week. And he does. Very impassionate, battle with Kyle Busch, where Chase Briscoe pretty much said, I wasn't even driving the car the last 10 laps. My mind was in a completely different place. I'm sure you've seen the replay of the finish. If you're not watching it live, wild finish. First of all, also, I love composite bodies because of this finish. Because in a cup race, the 98 would have been completely pancaked and done. Had 4 flat tires on just one side. It would have been wild. But get to see the finish, and what'd you think about Briscoe able to win?
Number one, going to the composite bodies. Thankfully, the next-gen car will have composite bodies, so when that debuts in 2022, so we'll actually be able to see, Cup cars actually hit the wall and not, completely die afterward. So, and like I said, that did help the race too. You were able to rough up some feathers a little bit. You didn't have to be so, I guess, conservative. You could really go for it more. And back to Chase Briscoe. I mean, like you said, like it was the best day of his life after the worst day of his life, and it's like you can't script that, man. I mean, it's like, to me, that like had shades of Darlington 2000. 2003 with Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch. And in a lot of ways, obviously what Briscoe and his family's going through is a lot worse. But like, think about it. With Ricky Craven, like there was still some stuff on the line too. Ricky Craven didn't know what was going to go on with his future. Darlington looked like it was going to be cut off the schedule. What else? Pontiac was going to lead the sport. So, you had a lot on the line too. And so, to go on a high note after a series of down notes, you can kind of parallel, but they're just two completely different circumstances. But that final lap, it doesn't get closer to Darlington 2003 than that.
Oh yeah, people can dish on Kyle Busch however they want. If Kyle Busch was really the terrible driver that everybody thought he was, he had the lane in 3 and 4 to take it. He could have just lifted it up the track, taken them, dumped them, done whatever he had to do, and he raced them clean. Briscoe flat out beat him. And I can see it. I had things like three moment. I was hoping, obviously, we get a side-by-side finish. We did, but we didn't because Briscoe was fully clear of them. I was really hoping we'd kind of get that crazy wild finish, but good to see Briscoe walk out on the positive side of that. Definitely needed that. And the way he won it and who he beat to win that race is definitely something that, if he wasn't already slated to go to Cup next year is another mark towards why he needs to be in Cup next year. Just a really, kind of feel good moment from the week. Chases were the talk of the town. Chase Elliott, Chase Briscoe was the talk of the town. And then now to shift away from Darlington and really shift away from NASCAR of sorts. I don't know if you heard it, but last night, Kyle Larson takes home his first racing victory of any kind since the infamous N-word incident that happened a couple of months ago. He won an I-55 Speedway, $20,000 to win, World of Outlaw race. When he talked a little bit and thanked the fans for supporting him over these crazy times. And, I didn't have too much to say about it just because, for one, Larson hasn't even applied for reinstatement yet. And two, there's going to be a long road to get back to NASCAR, just in terms of sponsorship, not in terms of talent. If talent-wise, everybody would love to sign him right now. But what are your thoughts? He gets a win. Do you think this is a move, in the positive direction for Kyle? And, you think him winning could potentially kind of clear up his name to where he can come back?
I think if he starts winning a lot, if he focuses, he really has no choice. If he wants to keep racing, he's got to focus all his attention really on the World of Outlaws. If he starts winning, left and right, I think that might be able to take some of that attention off, what happened with his racial slur. I think people are eventually going to forget. Obviously, companies are going to forget, like Chevrolet, like McDonald's, or like Credit One. But I can see him going to Cup next year just because the talent that Kyle Larson is, and just the amount of people that have praised him over the years. That's not just going to go away. Larson is probably going to come back to NASCAR. Granted, he hasn't reapplied for, for reinstatement. He sold his 2 houses in North Carolina. So, who the hell knows? But someone like Larson is not to compare I'm not comparing Larson to anybody, but it's like, let's say, for example, if Kyle Busch were to just, if we're just leave the sport for some reason, he's not going to be gone for long.
A lot of it is you just got to get used to the name of Kyle Larson in not an insensitive way. So, sponsorship-wise, it's going to be rough for a while especially because it so happened so recently. You've got to get his name associated with something else. So if he can win a bunch of races, that could be that something else. But I just thought it was intriguing to bring up because, obviously we all know Kyle Larson is a big NASCAR talent, a big dirt car talent. And obviously he's back winning, and it was a moment, and he's done an interview. First time I've actually seen him talk since, the whole thing went down. And he, it was interesting. I didn't know he sold his houses. That makes me think that maybe he won't come back. But we'll see. This is what he's really been wanting to do anyways, is to run dirt races. I've always kind of held that opinion that everybody seemed to hate me on, that
You're a hater.
NASCAR was kind of just a money grab anyways.
How dare you?
I'm a hater, supposedly, even though I give him respect and say, even though I say he's the most pure driver in the Cup Series from a talent perspective. But this is what he's really been wanting to do. So, potentially that could open up that schedule. But at the end of the day, me and you, we have a NASCAR podcast, and today there happens to be another NASCAR race, and not even just another NASCAR race, but a Crown Jewel event. Yep, Crown Jewel event, which feels so weird because I've been at this event probably the last 5 or 6 years. I typically have made this, at least since I'm an adult and I live on my own and I make my own financial decisions. This is the race I try to go to every year, sort of a tradition. And usually I'm at my mama's house in Charlotte. She lives 2-3 miles from the racetrack. So the last couple of years, we've kind of made it a tradition we go to her, spend the night. We wake up, watch a couple minutes of Monaco or paint dry, whichever one you prefer. Then we go to – I shouldn't have thrown that jab. Monaco has a lot of respect. It's just Monaco gets rough quick. Then watch the biggest race in the world, the Indy 500. Have a lot of respect for that race. NASCAR fan, but that's the biggest race in the world. Usually get to watch about 60 to 70% of that, just depending on how quick that race is going. Because then I got to head over to Charlotte Motor Speedway and go watch a 600 in person with my fiance and some friends and whoever's going. So today really sucks. The virus really hit for the first time today because I'm out of the norm. I'm typically in Charlotte right now. Big Crown Jewel event. And it's going to be exciting today. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. If we can get racing, weather's a little splishy, splashy. There's a lot of pop-up showers. I'm here in Spartan about an hour and a half ago. So, it's hopefully we get some racing in tonight. I'm excited. Qualifying got me amped up. The Chevrolets are bad fast, but I have a theory on what's going to happen tonight. And I'm sure you do. And I'm sure you're going to pull something out. I'm sure you're going to pick John Hunter Nemechek to win tonight. But who is your race-winning prediction for tonight's Coca Cola 600?
Well, first of all, going back to talk a little bit about the showers, it's starting to pour the hell down in here, so that's so forward for you. But to my pick, a little bit of foreshadowing, I guess you could say a little bit of foreshadowing. So I got a new sticker for my car. I showed our man over here. It's the number 24. So I think the 24 is going back to victory lane. William Byron gets career win number 1.
He does have a fast race car. He does. And I'm gonna agree with you. I think a Chevrolet wins tonight. I think a Hendrick Motorsport Chevrolet wins tonight. But before I tell you who it is, I'm not gonna. Hey, it's not a biased pick. All right, I'm just gonna clear the air now. All right, I'm gonna take this way. I have a theory. I think it's really gonna be between Hendrick and Gibbs. Hendrick starts out fast. The Chevys are fast. I think the whole top 6 is Chevrolets, including all of the Hendrick cars. I'm pretty sure. They're bad fast. They tend to start fast, but the Toyotas really come on throughout the night, and they're really, really good at adjusting. This is the longest race of the year. You've really got to be able to hit that adjustment from day to night. That's the most important aspect of this race. You do not have to be fast the first 200 laps of this race. You got to be steady. You got to be in the top 5, top 7. But if you can make that adjustment the second 200 laps, that is what wins you the Coca Cola 600. Unless you're Martin Truex Jr. in 2017 or 18 and you lead 392 or 400 laps. I was there for that one. Great fun. But anyways, Gibbs is really good about that, and the Toyotas are really good about that. Hendrick strong at first. Toyota comes on later. Ford, you always got to watch for Penske and Stewart-Haas, but I really think it's going to be between them. With a sneaky side of Chip Ganassi Racing, watch them. I think Matt Kenseth is 5th or 6th in his first race back here, in Charlotte in a year and a half, 2 years. Kurt Busch is the pole sitter for tonight, so that tells you what you need to know. But anyways, I'll quit running my track. My race-winning pick, not a biased pick, and I just said that just so you didn't realize who I'm picking. Jimmy Johnson's going to win the Coca Cola 600. I believe it'll be for the 5th time. I'm going to pick Jimmy, and I see you perked your head up. You said, what? What's going to happen? Jimmy Johnson is going to win. He didn't win his first 600. He did win the pole in his first 600. But I think Jimmy Johnson, who used to be infamous with the Coke 600, is going to win in his final Coke 600 start. And it could get pretty wild. I thought you would enjoy that. I figured if I threw in the bias pick, you would assume it's Chase Elliott.
I thought you were going to pick Chase Elliott.
That's why I said what I said, so I could throw you off the loop. I really don't have a firm pick for the night because it's so hard to pick with no practice. Always seen these cars just for one lap. And I am a little hesitant to pick Jimmy. It's a little scary to pick Jimmy. But, again, I think one of these weeks, the 48 is going to get it right. One of these weeks. And why not the Coke 600? The biggest thing, like I said, is going to be that adjustment. If he had Chad Knaus on the box with this kind of speed, I would feel a lot more confident. But I think he can make an adjustment. He knows what he wants in his car. Long race. If Jimmy does make a mistake early in the race, he's got time to come back. Like I said, I'm a little hesitant also because we do see comers and goers. And if last few years, Jimmy hasn't been a guy that has stayed up front all day long, and that's going to be hard for me to see. But that's who I'm going to pick. It's going to be tough. I think Chevrolet really can get a win tonight. They're really, really fast. Hendrick has really hit on something. Whatever the heck that is, they've hit on it. I can see the 24 victory lane. I think it's a good pick on your end. The 600s used to be infamous for first-time winners, so what a tradition that could be. As much as I would hate for Jimmy's first win to be without fans, just because I'd love to see that emotional moment with the fans, with Jimmy, I think it could very well happen tonight. And so I'll roll the dice, and I'll pick the L48.
All right. I got the 22. We got a pair of Hendrick cars. Two most dominant Hendrick numbers. So
two most dominant Hendrick numbers, so that means that Austin Dillon will probably win the race somehow. With that race.
Quinn off the victory lane.
Quinn off the victory lane. But I hope it's a good night. God, I just wish we could not. This weather has been ridiculous, and it's supposed to continue. It's supposed to rain all week long.
Look at this. Look at this outside.
Oh, yeah. The weather is supposed to rain again all week in the Carolinas, from what I've heard. Not as bad as last week, but it's pretty much supposed to rain again. We're supposed to have racing for the next 4 days at Charlotte, and there's going to be weather that could potentially, bother all of it. So we will see. We got lucky with our tails between our legs at Darlington. Somehow we got those races in. Happy for that. And all we can do now is move forward. I hope tonight's a great race. I hope we get a big audience tonight. It's a crown jewel event. Love to have a lot of people watching this race. And just hate I'm not there.
Yeah, I was supposed to go there too, honestly.
Yeah, we could have been going to 600 together. But anyways, we'll roll out of here. Armani, he's got to get back to work so he can afford those race tickets. So he can afford those race tickets for eventually. Hopefully, we have fans.
I can afford those car payments.
Car payments and race tickets, the most two important things in life. So
there you go.
We will see. Appreciate everybody listening in. We try to keep it around the 30-minute mark. I think we're closing in on that. So appreciate the people that came on. We're going to try to keep doing this every week and stay consistent now that we've got racing coming on. May or may not try something Wednesday night. We have to see how the schedule and the weather and everything looks. We may try to come on here Wednesday night and discuss a little bit obviously what happened with 600, and then prepare for, I believe it's the Alsco 310 or 300, whatever they're calling it. But this, I don't know if it's going with the kilometer or I don't know. But the next Cup race, and at that point, hopefully we can talk about what happened in the Trucks Xfinity Series. So with that being said, Armani, get back to work and let's get out of here.
I gotta get some food.
Get some food. Hey, guys.